Rising Productions, and this is Diva Talk. I'm Mia.
I'm Karen.
And I'm Reverie.
Okay, good. All right. So here we go. This is our first interview with our newly formed collaboration, Scorpio Rising Productions. And we thought we'd kick off our first virtual event entitled Diva Talk with one of our fabulous collaborators, Reverie Bay.
Hi.
So before we get into our interview with you, Reverie, I just thought we'd talk a little bit about Scorpio Rising. Maybe Mia could tell us a little bit more how we got into forming Scorpio Rising Productions.
Well, it's a long story that I refuse to make short. So what actually happened is the three of us were texting in a group text, and we were in the middle of quarantine, and we were all figuring out this Zoom thing, and we decided we should Zoom together. And then that grew from we're going to Zoom together, and then we're going to Zoom together once a week at a scheduled time and set it every week. And then we decided we were going to have a theme every week and dress in a costume every week, because we put the extra in extraordinary. We are the divas of all divas. And so we have just grown into those costumes. And then we were having a meeting trying to figure out why we're all so much alike when we have completely different astrological signs. I'm a Taurus. Karen, you're?
Sagittarius.
And Reverie, you are?
I'm a Libra.
So we thought, well, that's really interesting because we're all really a lot alike. So we did our, what is it called? The actual tuned in chart of
I
our
believe
signs.
it's called a natal chart, I think.
Natal chart, thank you. So we did that on each of us and discovered that all three of us are Scorpio rising, which is why we have all of the same characteristic traits. And then we decided we want to do something that empowers women. Women empowering women, and we want to support women in their lives and in art. And so we formed this production company called Scorpio Rising. And now we're going to have Diva Talk, where we interview each other and other women in this industry.
Well, not only just in art, but we thought, why not expand it to their art, their life, and their craft? Because, you know, we thought maybe there are some pastry chefs we could interview, and they could share some of their pastries.
We want some cupcakes, let's face it.
Yeah, really, we're just doing this for cupcakes.
Sounds good to me.
Yes, we do. We came up with a mission, which Mia just stated, empowering. Let me just go back. Empowering and supporting women in their art, life, and craft. And we have a cool tagline. You want to share that with us, Mia?
Rise up.
Unify and rise up.
Oh, is it unify and rise up? Okay.
Yeah, get a hand signal.
And rise up.
Yeah.
So awesome. So I guess we'll get into our interview unless we had anything else we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. You ready?
Yeah, you know, I felt like last week, because we were supposed to do this last week, I felt like I needed to apologize because there was all these life events going on. And then I thought, you know what? I can't apologize because this is life and this is what happens. And, you know, Karen, when we were talking yesterday, I was saying, you know, what is that quote from John Lennon? You know, life is what happens when you're making other plans. And that's exactly what was going on. You know, we were supposed to do this interview, and then these fires happened on the West Coast. Karen and I are in LA, and Mia's in Texas. And I have family in Oregon, and they had to evacuate this week. So there was that stress going on, and the Bobcat fire is actually in my neighborhood. So that put a crimp on everything. And I felt bad at the moment, but then I thought, no, this is life. This is what happens. We're in the middle of this, and I can't really apologize because it's not anything that I can control. And I'm glad that, you know, we're getting back on the horse and we're just taking this by force and realizing that we have to move forward. We have to move ahead. I mean, there's so much going on in everyone's lives right now, but we have to stay focused. We have to stay positive and move forward, even though we're in the middle of all these fires and this pandemic. We've got to move forward. So let's do it.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I know that, there's a lot of vulnerability around us feeling like we have to have it all together in order
Exactly.
to say to the world, here's where I am in the middle of, of fire around me and stuff happening with my family and a pandemic and, all the other stuff that goes with that. But, here we are in our humanity, right? And I think this is why one of the reasons that we did unify, so we can help each other rise up, or, tear down the walls and build each other up.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Amen, sisters. So let's get into our interview. I actually want to talk about what life was like before the pandemic with you, Reverie. So I know that you had a theatrical life. Just to give a little bit of background to our audience, you are a writer of a YA novel, which we'll get into that later. You are also a performer. You've had a children's theater company for, I think, is it 13 years?
I think once you get past the 10-year mark, you kind of forget, but I think it's I've been performing for children of all ages for about 15 years.
Amazing.
Thank
And
you.
you're still doing that, and we'll get into detailed questions about that. You're also a voiceover artist, as well as a producer. And I'll just do a little mention that you and I just produced an event last fall, a live event. I miss those.
I miss those too.
Which Mia was a part of, which was our She-Lawn. It was supporting women artists and what they wanted to do, either their artistry of singing or poetry or their book or puppetry. So we're kind of doing a little bit of a takeoff of that in a virtual way now. So tell me a little bit about, I know COVID has actually kept you busy. So tell me a little bit about what your successful business was like before leading into our pandemic.
Right. Well, I ran a theater company called the Grail Theatre Britain, and it was started overseas in England, like I said, about 15 years ago. And during that time, I was performing mainly at elementary schools, some middle and some high schools, where I toured there, stayed in a hotel overnight, got up early in the morning, set the stage and the lighting, and performed at schools. And now that we're in the middle of this pandemic, it's pretty much wiped out my business completely. So I'm unable to go into schools. I mean, most of the schools are virtual now. And not only that, with this pandemic, I have a weakened immune system. So it's just not healthy for me to travel, stay in hotels, and perform in schools. So it's just not feasible at the moment. So what I've been doing since COVID is kind of, rearranging what I'm doing and condensing it to performing via Zoom and presenting some options for schools to take on and have me perform in front of a camera. And it's so strange because I've gone from performing to hundreds of people in a room where I have to be really big to narrowing everything down and focusing on a camera in front of me. So it's a completely different entity, or like what I like to call an animal. It's a completely different animal. So it's taken some work, and just navigating through Zoom and YouTube and having to figure all this stuff out has been a bit of a challenge for me because I'm so used to doing everything live and off the cuff. So it's taken some challenge. But back in July, I formed Phelan Productions, and it's just me, and I'm performing readings mainly for middle and high school now, and I've got that going for me. And it's been slow, and I think a lot of people can relate that we're in the middle of a pandemic. You got to do everything on your own, so it's a little frustrating, but I'm getting there, as we all are. I'm making it happen.
Well, we look forward to hearing more.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, retake. So, Rev, let me ask you, you went from performing for elementary school children and now you're gearing towards middle school and high school. What made you take that leap to transition, and has it been a difficult transition? How have you had to adjust in that?
Well, I don't think it's really been that much a transition for me. I've always related well to, you know, the preteen or the middle and high school age students. I really enjoy engaging with that age group, and I did perform at some middle and high schools before, so it's not completely new to me. But because my book is a teen book, I really wanted to reach out and embrace that age group and to just stay active. So I really enjoy that age group, and it can be a bit of a challenge. You know, that's when the sass takes over and the personality and the hormones, but you know, I'm into that. I accept the challenge, and I find it fun, and it's a learning experience for me too.
Awesome.
Now, you also are a voiceover artist, so you brought a little bit of your working with children or working with teens or working with kids in kind of a high school environment or middle school environment into your voiceover work. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, I don't feel like it's that much of a jump because I can take all the characters that I performed on stage and actually use them in front of a microphone. And it's, you know, it's exciting. And I have this opportunity where I'm going to be performing some audio books. And I just feel like it's another way to hone my craft in a different way and still be performing an education. And I really love that. One of the things that I've been passionate about is that I want to bestow upon the next generation that, you know, live theater and performing is a beautiful art, and I want to keep that alive. And especially with COVID, it's, you know, live theater doesn't exist right now, but you know, we're evolving, and I want to be able to continue just to cultivate that educational aspect with my art, and I love it.
It's great.
Well,
I'm glad you said that about theater. Sorry, I'm just making a comment that I'm really glad she said that about theater, because I'm a theater person too, and I don't want that to get lost in this pandemic. Live theater.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I've actually discovered my rediscovered my theater side. I haven't
You
had
have.
it since high school, but I've rediscovered it getting in front of the camera via this pandemic and all of the Zoom stuff. But Reverie, how is doing voiceover different from theater?
Well, you know, there's some similarities, but they're also very different. I mean, for one thing, live theater, when you stumble and fall, you just have to go with it. And, you know, I've performed well over 1,000 times. I'd say probably thousands of times now. And things go wrong. The set falls down, you flub up a line, and you just have to go with it. And you know, especially performing for kids, sometimes they'll jump up and touch you, or they'll want to engage with you, and you just have to be on all the time and just go with it. But with voiceover, when you stumble over a line, you don't even have to apologize. You just take a breath and repeat the line over and over and over again, and then the technician will correct it. So it's kind of nice in a way where you can stumble and fall, but they'll get your best take. So you end up doing your best work. So in that way, it's actually quite different.
I need my life to be a voiceover.
Don't we all?
I just want all the best takes. That's it.
I was going to say we should all do an exercise. Is what would your voiceover be of your life? It was a dark and stormy night.
Or can I do that over again?
There would be way too much moaning in mine.
Mine would be a lot of complaining. So I want to actually talk about how proactive you've been in this pandemic. You know, many of us have found it difficult to kind of focus and you know, put our mind to something that might be useful besides cleaning your closet, which that's a perfectly fine thing to do too, if you see my closet. But, and that's metaphorically speaking, I'm just kidding. But I want to talk about what you did. You went out, well, rather not out, but you sat down, and they call it button chair, and you queried a bunch of literary agents, which I know you've been doing for some time, but you hit you know, what they say, the jackpot, right, in Vegas, and you got a literary agent in New York. You want to tell us about that?
Well, it didn't just happen overnight. I had been
Sure.
querying agents. Well, first I should back up and say I wrote my book about 10 years ago. And then 7 years ago, I started querying agents. So it's been a long, arduous process. I'm not even going to deny that. And you know, during that 7 year period, I had, I believe, 5 hits where I had agents take it to the next level. And, you know, for whatever reason, they call it a pass, where they turn your work down. So I just kept, you know, kept carrying on and kept, you know, applying myself. And I thought, you know, I'm not going to stop during this pandemic. I don't know what their situation is, but I'm just going to keep on doing it. And I think what definitely got my foot in the door was the fact that the week before I had gotten the second runner-up award from SCBWI, which they're the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And because I won that award and I put that in my query letter, it garnered the attention of Mark Gottlieb from Trident Media Group. And he immediately, you know, asked for my book, and within 24 hours, he read it and called me. And I was really surprised. I was like, "You read my book in a day?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm into publishing. This is what I do. This is my business." So that's how it happened. So it was a long 7 year process, and I finally have a literary agent, and he's sending my book out there, and I have every bit of faith that it will get published. So it's finally happening, and all this during a pandemic. So things can happen. And what I wanted to stress to all writers is that don't stop working during this pandemic. Query these agents, because they are reading the query letters. They're just doing it from home. And I think a lot of people are getting a lot more work done at home, despite the fact that they've had to, you know, parry everything down. They're actually reading the query letters, because I've had more rejections during this pandemic than I ever did. So therefore, that's a good thing, because they're reading it. So if you're a writer, get your query letters out there. Now is the time to do it.
And I do think your book will get published. We're going to talk more about your book, I think, in the next question. But I really enjoyed your book, and I would love to see it out there in the YA world and in kids' hands. So kudos to you.
I just want to take a minute to celebrate this moment for our friend here of putting in all of this work and over a long period of time, and it's finally coming to fruition. So yeah, let's celebrate. That's badass. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy for you. And
thank you.
Yeah, also, I can't wait to read your book again. Now, I've read it, I think, 3 times now. The very, very original version, and then the next edited version, and then the next edited version. So I know there was another edit after those 3. So I'm looking forward to it actually being published, and I can get that published copy and read it again. But tell us about the book. What is the name of it? What's the title of it? And what's it about?
Well, my book, it's a young adult memoir, and it's called, well, currently titled Queen of the Nerds. That's me, or that was me. And it is about surviving a sexual assault when I was in high school. But you know, it's not just about that. I think it's definitely, obviously, a coming of age story, but there's so many more levels to it. You know, it's about overcoming bullying, discovering who you are, how I decided that what was going to get me through my personal pain was by focusing on my art, and everything that I wanted to do back when I was in high school, I've made happen. And I think that's where the power of the book lies, that even though you fall down and you feel like, oh, wow, I'm never going to be able to get up again, you can do it. And I think that's what the powerful message is in the book. At least I hope it is.
I think it is. I think, you know, I think that's what makes it kind of more universal, you know, beyond YA, is like, here we are adults, and we're falling, and we're picking ourselves back up, and, you know, brushing the dirt off. So, just like you did when you were learning to walk, right? So
Right.
here we are, just trying to figure it out day by day. But you conceived this book before COVID. So, and actually the Me Too movement has happened since I think, during the process of you writing the book. So would you say that had a lot to do with it, or what was kind of the inspiration, besides getting your story out?
To me, I feel like the Me Too movement was ironic. It was just like, wow, here's this movement happening when I wrote this book, 5-6 years ago. I had been working on it well before the Me Too movement. And I think that it was just kind of, for me, it was lucky. Perhaps it was karmic, but that came about, and that really propelled me to get my book out there. But I started writing this well before Me Too. I think I formed the outline in 2008, and then used the outline and just went from, okay, this is what happened freshman year, this is what happened sophomore year, and and so on and so forth. But Me Too really had nothing to do with it, but it's definitely helped. It's been to my advantage.
I think it's great because we are hearing more stories now. Lori Halse Anderson, of course, is, I know, one of your heroes, and
Yeah.
and another writer of memoir, and talking about sexual assault. So I feel like the more we hear the stories, the more it gives us an opportunity, even though you wrote yours, well before the Me Too movement, but I think all of this will help give women a voice.
Absolutely. And I think everyone's individual voice is important. I got tired of hearing, oh God, not another rape memoir. No, everyone's voice is important, and everyone has something to say. And I think that the more books we put out there, not just about sexual assault, but about the human or the female experience, is great, because everyone's story is different, and each person is going to find their own person that they can relate to. There's I just feel that it's really important to get your message out there and reach someone. If you reach out and connect with one person, then you've done your job. It's been worth it.
Yes.
Yeah, and you've geared your book towards young adult, but it speaks to me on a level because I know I went through some stuff while I was in school. So when I read your book, I was just like, wow, stuff happened to me too. And it's that whole part of that Me Too. You have that moment where you're just like, I'm not alone. Finally, people are talking about it, and I'm not alone. And
Yeah, you're not alone, and you can, I'm sorry, you're not alone, and you can relate.
Absolutely, absolutely. We need to talk about it a lot more than we are, a lot more. We need to get more conversations going on about it. So in order to get those conversations going, though, we have to get people to read these books. So how are you promoting your book and your theater business during a pandemic? How are you promoting yourself? Because you can't go out and do book signings.
That's right, but everything is being done on the internet right now. Social media is a fantastic tool. There's Zoom. I put together a new website, and that's reveriefaye.com, and I'm promoting my book that way. Facebook is great for that. Instagram, we have so many tools, and a lot of published authors are doing Zoom, in schools and for libraries and, women's groups. So there's that aspect. So you just have to, pare things down and do everything in the modern aspect during COVID. And that's what I'm doing to get the word out there.
Awesome. Keep doing it.
Yes.
Thank
keep
you.
doing it. And I believe that your book is also, you have pre-sales for it?
Yes, you can pre-order my book before it comes out. And if you do that, then, you'll get a special signed copy.
I'm one of those people.
Yay, thank you.
So let's talk about, there's a list of things that we could go down of negativity during this pandemic. And all of it is, appropriate. There's been a lot of tragedy in all of this, but I think, one of the things that has come up for us too in our conversations is, what's positive about it? What kinds of things have come up for us? How do you stay positive in a pandemic, and what kinds of things do you think are positive that have come out of it?
I'm not going to lie, this time has been very difficult for me, but it's been difficult for a lot of people, and as we discussed before, we're not seeing people in their best light. People are, reacting and behaving in bizarre ways and in very negative ways too. And I think that it's really hard to stay positive with everything going on. I mean, we've got this pandemic, we've got the fires going on. I currently have a friend in the hospital who's very sick. I've had friends who have been sick with COVID, and I've had friends who have died from COVID or COVID-related illness. So it's been very, very difficult. But I think how I've stayed positive is to just stay focused. Make a list every day, mark things off your list. But aside from that, having the camaraderie, for me, Scorpio rising, having the two of you in my life has been amazing. You've helped me overcome so many obstacles. More than you probably both realize. And I hope that everyone listening out there has some kind of group, someone that they can turn to, someone that they can talk to during this time, because what is going to get you through is your network, your family, your friends, the people that you care about.
Your cat.
And your pets, definitely. I think that is definitely how you can stay focused. We have to stay connected. I lived through 9/11, and one of the things that I missed during that time was that it brought people together. I lived in Queens, New York, and before 9/11, I didn't know any of my neighbors. We were all just kind of like, no, it's like we're on a subway all the time and we don't talk to people. And suddenly I knew all my neighbors, and we knew each other by name and would say hi and hang out on the porch, and it was great. But we don't have that during this COVID time because we have to do this social distancing. So it's hard. And because we're doing this social distancing, we're not seeing the best in people. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone's going through a hard time. Everyone's going through what I'm going through in their own way. And I think that we have to band together. That's the only way we're going to get through this.
Absolutely.
Unify and rise up.
Unify and rise up.
And rise up.
Absolutely. Well, Reverie, thank you so much for joining us today. Please tell our audience where they can find you, either for your book or for booking your theater performances. Let us know how to get a hold of you.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. You can get a hold of me through my website, which is reveriefaye.com. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And, I just want to wish everyone, the absolute best, and, just hang in there. Stay positive.
And I also want to plug our Scorpio Rising Productions.
Absolutely.
And some of keep a lookout for some of our other virtual events, and down the line some live events, and continue to tune in to Diva Talk.
Absolutely. We're going to have more of these fantastic interviews coming up.
Yes, I'm really excited about it. Woohoo!
Woo!
Stay tuned for our next Diva Talk, where we interview another fabulous guest.